Most people who work in English can answer, "What do you do?" But ask them to go further, and it falls apart. Today, I'm giving you 10 phrases for talking about your work and career with real confidence. Not just your job title, your actual story. Where you started, what you do, where you're headed. These come up in interviews, networking, first meetings. After today, you'll be ready for all of it. I'm Mark, and this is English with Mark. New episode, let's get into it.
Most people who work in English can answer one question pretty easily. What do you do? But ask them to go further and it falls apart. What does your career path look like? What are you working toward? What's been the highlight of your career so far? Today I'm giving you the language for all of that. 10 expressions for talking about your work and career in natural, confident English. These are phrases that come up in interviews, networking events, first meetings, anytime someone wants to know more than just your job title. Let's start with the most basic version, the one most people get wrong. The phrase is, I work in, not I am a. I work in. I work in tells people your industry or field, not just your job title. You might say, I work in finance, or I work in tech, or I work in healthcare on the operations side. That last one adds something important, on the operations side. It tells people which part of healthcare, not just the whole huge industry. You can also say, I work for a company that does. That's useful when the company name means nothing to the other person. I work for a company that does logistics software for retailers. That sentence is clear, specific, and nobody needs to know the company name. And one more. I'm in the business of. In the business of is very natural and slightly informal. I'm in the business of helping companies hire better. That version focuses on what you actually do, not where you do it. That's often much more interesting to people. One more variation. I work on the. Very useful for describing your specific area within a larger company. I work on the product side. Or, I work on the commercial side. The side of tells people your function, without needing a full explanation. Next, how to describe what you actually do day to day. The phrase is, essentially what I do is. Essentially means, in simple terms, at the core of it. It signals, I'm going to explain this clearly, without jargon. You might say, essentially what I do is help teams communicate better internally. Or, essentially I make sure projects get delivered on time and on budget. Those sentences are clear. Anyone can understand them. You don't need to know the industry to get it. A similar phrase, in practice, my job involves. In practice means, in reality, what it actually looks like day to day. In practice, my job involves a lot of meetings and a lot of problem solving. Very honest, very relatable, and surprisingly rare. Most people describe their job title, not their actual job. There's a big difference, and this phrase closes that gap. Day to day, I mostly is another good one. Day to day, I mostly manage client relationships and review reports. Very casual, very clear. Sounds like a real person talking. And one more. The best way to describe it is. The best way to describe it says, I've thought about how to explain this. The best way to describe it is, I'm the person who connects the dots between teams. Very visual, very clear, and people immediately picture what you do. I remember being asked what I did at a networking event years ago, and I gave my job title, and the person nodded politely and moved on. The next time someone asked, I tried the essentially approach. I explained what I actually did, what problems I solved. That conversation lasted 20 minutes. Next, how to talk about your career path. The phrase is, I started out in. Started out in means, my career began in this area. It immediately tells a story. It says, I've been somewhere. I've moved. You might say, I started out in sales and moved into marketing. Or, I started out as a teacher and ended up in training and development. Ended up in is a great phrase. It says, this wasn't the plan, but here I am. And there's something very human about that. Very relatable. People also say, I fell into it. Fell into means, I didn't plan this career. It just happened, and I stayed. I fell into project management. I was good at keeping people organized. Very casual, very honest, and it always makes people curious to hear more. And one more. I've taken a bit of an unusual path. Unusual path means your career didn't follow the expected route. I've taken a bit of an unusual path. Engineering, then consulting, now startups. That sentence is confident about being different, and different is interesting. Or, it wasn't linear, but it makes sense in hindsight. Linear means a straight line, one step following logically from the next. My path wasn't linear, but it makes sense in hindsight. In hindsight means, looking back now, I can see why it happened this way. Very self-aware, very mature. People find that very credible. Next, how to talk about your experience and achievements. The phrase is, I've been doing this for... Simple, but important. It immediately establishes how experienced you are. You might say, I've been doing this for about 8 years now. Or, I've been in this industry for most of my career. Most of my career is a confident phrase. It says, this is who I am professionally. A related phrase, over the years signals experience accumulated over time, not just one project. Over the years, I've worked with companies of all sizes, from startups to multinationals. Very strong, very credible, and it paints a wide picture. And one more. One thing I'm particularly proud of is a graceful way to highlight an achievement. It doesn't say, I'm amazing. It says, this is something that mattered to me. One thing I'm particularly proud of is building the team from scratch. From scratch means from nothing. You started it, built it, made it real. A similar one, something that stands out for me is... Stands out means it was memorable, different from everything else. Something that stands out for me is when we turned around a failing project. Turned around means took something that was failing and made it succeed. Very powerful phrase, very specific. People always want to hear more after that. Next, how to talk about where you're headed. The phrase is, what I'm working toward is... This phrase is forward-looking. It shows ambition without arrogance. It says, I know where I want to go, and I'm moving in that direction. You might say, what I'm working toward is a more strategic role. Or, what I'm working toward is building my own team eventually. Eventually is important there. It says, not now, but I'm thinking ahead. That's mature. That's planful. People respect that. A related phrase, my goal is to... Simple, direct. Works in interviews, networking, performance reviews. My goal is to move into a leadership position within the next 2 years. Very clear, very confident, no hedging. And one more, I'm at a stage where describes where you are in your career journey right now. I'm at a stage where I want to take on more responsibility. Or, I'm at a stage where I'm looking for a new challenge. That second one is often used when you're thinking about leaving, and people understand it without you having to say it directly. Next, how to talk about skills and strengths professionally. The phrase is, one of my strengths is... Strength is a confident word, but one of softens it. It says, I'm not claiming to be perfect, but I'm good at this specific thing. You might say, one of my strengths is bringing clarity to complex situations. Or, one of my strengths is getting teams aligned when there's disagreement. Both of those are specific, not vague like I'm a good communicator. Specific strengths are memorable. Vague ones are forgettable. Be specific, always. A related phrase, I tend to be good at... Tend to be means, generally, in most situations. I tend to be good at spotting problems before they become crises. Very honest, very practical, and it sounds real, not rehearsed. And one more. People often come to me when says, this is what I'm known for in my workplace. People often come to me when they need to simplify a complicated message. That sentence is very credible because it's not self-promotion, it's observation. It says, others see this in me, not just me. Next, how to handle the question you didn't expect. The phrase is, that's a good question, let me think about that for a second. This is not a filler phrase, it's a professional tool. It buys you time without sounding lost or unprepared. You might say it when someone asks something you haven't been asked before, or when the question deserves a real answer, not a quick one. Let me think about that for a second signals, I take this seriously. I'm not going to give you a rehearsed answer. I'm actually going to think. People respect that. It shows intellectual honesty. A similar phrase. I haven't thought about it quite like that before. That phrase acknowledges the question was interesting, novel, worth reflecting on. I haven't thought about it quite like that before. I think what I'd say is very natural, very confident, and it makes the other person feel they asked something good. And one more. That's something I'm still figuring out, honestly. Still figuring out means I don't have a clean answer yet, and I'm okay with that. Most people pretend they have everything figured out. Saying you don't is rare, and people find it surprisingly refreshing. Honesty about uncertainty is a form of confidence, not weakness. Last one. How to wrap up a career conversation naturally. The phrase is, it's been a good journey so far. Journey implies movement, growth, and reflection. So far says, I'm not done. There's more to come. You might say, it's been a good journey so far. I've learned a lot. Or, I feel like I'm just getting started, honestly. I feel like I'm just getting started is very energetic, very optimistic. It says, experience doesn't slow me down, it fuels me. People love that energy. It's contagious. And one more. I'm really enjoying where things are headed. Enjoying where things are headed means the direction feels right. I'm happy with it. It's been a challenging few years, but I'm really enjoying where things are headed. That sentence is honest about difficulty and still positive about the future. That combination is very powerful and very rare. Most people either pretend everything was easy or dwell on the hard parts. Acknowledging both is what makes you sound real and trustworthy. Okay, full recap. 10 expressions for talking about your work and career. I work in. Essentially what I do is, I started out in. I've been doing this for. What I'm working toward is. One of my strengths is. That's a good question, let me think. It's been a good journey so far. These phrases let you talk about your career with confidence and clarity, not just your job title, your actual story. Your challenge, next time someone asks what you do, try the essentially approach. Explain what you actually do, not just where you work or what your title is. Then come back and tell me how it went in the comments. I read every comment. I'd love to hear your story. I'm Mark, and this is English with Mark. New episode. Let's get into it.